There's Martin. Craig. Get you.
Get the baby here.
Hey.
Get the baby. Get the baby.
Here's the newest baby. Hi, baby.
Did you see blue baby? Ah, you did a lot. I love beans, Jimmy.
You love beans?
I love beans.
Good. Here they go. Paddle hard. So a little splash war going on. I know, maybe they're bailing the boat there. Expert rafters here at the Hardy family reunion. Hey Hardy! Hardy family reunion. Doing what they do best.
So when you get your CD player.
You like hot dogs, don't you, Jimmy?
Okay. I got Mom, look at Jimmy. Well, I got Rose, take this. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Get into that. Like that dog?
What's saying the dog?
Sand dog, huh? The chick's out paddling around. Here she goes. Stand up! Do that. Catch a wave. Good for girl.
What are you doing?
Alright, yeah.
Simpleton.
Simpleton, huh?
Yeah.
Bobo?
In Costa Rica, yeah.
Hey, Bobo.
Okay.
Here it comes. Go for it. Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is the rerun.
Yeah.
I'm just wishing the Las Vegas Hardys were here with us.
Richard, you want to model your hat?
Oh, yeah. Nice and Martin.
We got a lot of those, don't we?
That's the occasion.
Okay.
Beautiful day.
They do a better job of entertaining the song.
There's Christy right there. Yeah, and they know where we are. They're just watching Annie. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, little Jimmy. What is it? Martin.
Oh, say something like what, this is a party? This is free beer.
Put fattening. I don't like using butter or oil. And that book shows you how not to use that.
That's right.
But I love it.
Perfect solution.
Yeah.
And everything in there is good.
Yeah.
We keep trying different recipes and haven't found a bit.
You know, and they're all really delicious. None of them are like weird, like,
Oh my gosh.
you know, they're good. They're really good. And my favorite thing to make, and surprise, surprise, like the only thing I can't do, pineapple cake and apple cinnamon.
We had one other brother strike. So this is the gentleman we're going to be talking about tonight. But what I wanted to tell you is, where did he come from? I thought maybe you'd like to come. So, and the story goes back to England in 1630. Who remembers when the Pilgrims came to America? What year? Megan? What year did the Pilgrims come? Okay. That's a good guess. But, well, 1620, the Pilgrims came over. Why did they come? Anybody remember why they came? Because they were looking for religious freedom. I think there's a theme there that we might pick up on later. But 10 years after the first came to this country, Thomas Hardy came to Massachusetts. And he settled there. he got here, he found that there were other families already there called the Levitts who came over on the Mayflower. They were the first people who got it. Well, these two families lived in Massachusetts for 200 years. And they fought in Revolutionary Wars, Indian Wars, and we don't know much about them until about 1832, when a couple of gentlemen were converted to the Mormon religion. 1832, Josiah Hardy became a Mormon. And about the same time, Jeremiah Levitt became a Mormon in Massachusetts. And they moved to the Midwest, Ohio, and then Illinois, and Missouri, and then finally they moved to Salt Lake. When did Brigham Young go to Salt Lake? Anybody remember?
1847.
1847, very good. Well, Josiah Hardy went, and 5 years later, in 1852. And Jeremiah Levitt also went over to Salt Lake about the same time. Both of them had sons. Jeremiah Levitt had a son named Dudley, and Josiah Hardy had a son named Warren. The small boys went across to Salt Lake, and then they kind of grew up, and when they became men and had families, the church asked them both to move to southern Utah and settle southern Utah. They said, aye, sir. And they moved to southern Utah. And Warren had a son named Heber, and Dudley had a beautiful daughter named Betsy. Well, one more move by one family. Dudley Levitt and a company of 26 people decided to move one more time to Bunkerville, Nevada, which they did. They were in the first group of 26 people to move in and settle Bunkerville, Nevada. So we have Betsy growing up in Bunkerville, and we have Heber growing up in St. George. So we got a problem. Well, it so happens that Dudley Hardy was called to go to St. George to work in mission, and his daughter asked if he could go up and stay with him for a while up there. And then that happened, and then there was an Easter picnic. Excuse me. And Betsy went to the picnic with some girlfriends, but somehow she lost her ride back, and Heber volunteered to take her back home. And guess what? They found him out. So they got married, and they lived with their father in St. George for about a year, and then they decided they too would go back to Bunkerville, which is where her father was living, and settle in Bunkerville. So a year later, they went to Bunkerville and built a 2-room adobe house, and their first child was Merlin. So, 1630 in England to Bunkerville. They finally got together. Okay, what do we know about Merlin? He grew up in Bunkerville. How long was the school year in Bunkerville in those years? 3 months. Reading, writing, and spelling. That was the curriculum. And they only went to school for 3 months. They built a high school in Bunkerville, but it wasn't built until Merlin was 22 years old, so he kind of missed it. But they were busy. His father was in the cattle business and shipping business, and there were 2 other sons, and they were all busy. And finally, he was called to a mission in the Central States, and he went there 1917. But then the war was started, and the First World War was started, and the United States entered the war and began drafting people to go to the service. So he had to come back from his mission and go to the Army, and he went to Fremont, Camp Fremont in California. And I'm not sure where Camp Fremont is. I forgot to ask that. But it's in California. And he was in California and wrote a lovely letter to his mother in September of 1918. Well, when was the war over? When was the armistice? September 11th, 1918. So the war was over just after he got into the service, but he went to France anyway because they kept sending soldiers over there just to make sure that the war stayed stopped. And finally, he was over there for a year and came back. And while he was there, he got to see the big churches and museums. He got a pretty good tour of France, and finally came home. And we know that he was very serious about courting Vida Earle for a long time. And finally, there was a trip to visit a younger brother of his and his wife, and Vida came along on the trip. And when they came back, they were married.
Must have been Las Vegas.
We're not going on any trip.
Then, well, they were married again in the temple in January. So, and as soon as he got back, he wrote by his father and told him he was going to go to the temple.
Told him how much he loved his daughter.
That's right. What do I remember? The things that you read about Merlin, everyone says he always very, he loved his family, he loved his mother, and I remember the same things. He always invited his mother to go on our vacation trips. And she went on several when I was a young lad. I remember that. He liked his brothers and sisters very much, and he visited whenever he could. And I remember many trips to Pioche, to the Bradshaws, St. George, to visit Aunt Emery, Bunkerville, almost every 2 or 3 months we'd be in Bunkerville to visit Brother Warren, the Wrecking Wappers, Brother Dudley. And so our vacation trips were essentially trips to visit his family. And we all enjoyed it very much. I guess the one thing that caught my attention when I didn't think it was unusual at the time, but he loved Bible study. And one of the most enthusiastic parts that I remember is when there was a special lecture series on St. Paul, and he really enjoyed it. But he was a fine man and a great father. And I love him very much. So, with that, I'll pass it to Richard and let him pass on some of his recollections.
Very good, thank you. It just seems like we haven't heard a lot about our father over the years, and I think it's really good to get better acquainted with him and the background and experiences we had. I was very young when my father passed away, so I don't have many recollections, and I was thinking about it as I was preparing to share some thoughts with you tonight as to what I do remember. And one thing I do remember is when we had an old house on 7th Street in Las Vegas. I remember jumping up and down on the bed because we slept outside in the summer. And I must have been extremely young. I remember one of my cousins was there that I remember. And the only things I'm trying to remember now are those things that happened before my father passed away in 1942. So that was one item. I remember going on a trailer. When he had a trailer, we had to go down to the old ranch where he dumped the cows. And I remember on occasion when I was doing it, just vaguely I kind of identified with him. I remember when we went to Lopendale, but Merlin's brother, Dudley, passed away very young, and left a small family, a family. And we went to my father and I don't know what it was going on, but I remember I was there, and we helped to build a house for Dudley and his family. And over the years, I remember my role. I don't know what my father did, but I know that I was down in the cesspool helping to stack some bricks where they had this big dugout, and they lined it with rock, and I was running the help and doing that. Over the years, when I went to visit Uncle Doug's family, and as my cousin, my early son, I always had a special identity with that house because it was one that I know Phil would always help me feel good about my father because of the circumstances under that. I never said anybody, but I was there and I remembered it. I do remember also going over our football field, which was close where my father worked at the school district, where he took care of the grounds of both the grammar school and high school. And I remember sitting in the stand watching out the field with Martin and Scott were taking turns running over across the football field. I remember when I was, after they moved from the house over there, they built one house between the schools, very convenient to move home. And they felt so excited about this house that when it came time to put in the cement, they called me out of school, called the boys out of school, Martin and Scott. And I had to leave school in the daytime and go over there. And we imprinted our names on the back step. It was a big occasion, so it was just like Roman Chinese theater there. And those names were in there, because that was very important cost for the family, and we were all involved, and I just remember. I only remember one occasion in the fleeting one, I was very young, when my father and mother were speaking to each other. I felt it was very upsetting to me because it was so unusual that they weren't on a very strong positive level. As I think about it, I think that the evidence in the fact that they were almost always on a very strong positive level, so they had kind of a dissatisfaction like that registered with me that I remember. Sometimes I think about how old I was when my father passed away. One thing I'm sure of is that I wasn't 12 years old, because when I was 12 years old, I became a scout, and when I was a scout, we had father-son outings. One of my happened when you have father-son outings, you don't have a father, you have to have a surrogate father. So I had many surrogate fathers, my uncle, different people that would go with me, and I always felt very strange with those and uncomfortable because my father wasn't there to participate with me. So I left him about 11 years old. When he passed away, it was a very interesting experience I felt. Over the years, I thought about it many times. He'd been sick for about a year and had to give up his employment at temporary jobs and different things. But I remember I was sitting in, it was a Sunday, and I was in church in the afternoon, and the youth were sitting on the stand. And during the service, the lights went out in the building, just dark. And as you would expect, most of the youth on the stand tittered and made noises, the normal things. But I remember sitting very quietly and introspective, and nothing bothered me. And the lights came back on, the program came back together. And then after the meeting, I walked out to the hallway by myself, and one of the brothers approached me quickly and said, go straight home. That I should walk straight on home. I was only 2 blocks, not unusual. So I walked home, and of course when I got there, the band together around with my father. And I felt over the years that I'm not saying I saw him or anything like that, but over the years I felt that I was unusually quiet, unusually introspective at that particular time. And I just like to admit it. I thought that experience. What kind of a man was Father Merlin? One of the things that makes a man, I think, is what he does and how he respects and what he thinks about his father. Martin referred to a letter he wrote from Camp Fremont to his mother. It's 10 pages. It's addressed to your mother. And it's signed from your loving soldier boy, Merlin Hardy, for 10 pages. I tried to read it. It's hard to read because of the writing, but it could be worthwhile to get that type so that it's easy to read and get to the reflections in the thought. But as I read through this, the one thing that I get out of it is that Merlin wasn't just writing to his mother to convey interesting things that was going on. He was writing to his mother, and what comes across is that he was trying to put her mind at ease, that he was safe, that he cared about her. He assured her that everything was going to be fine, that he would return home safely. He bore his testimony about the church, the gospel, the things that were important to him. If anything could speak of Father Merlin's evidence of his intent and his integrity and his intent to honor his father and his mother, that letter sets it apart. And for no other reason, that would be a treasure for all of us to know how he felt about his mother, but not just what he wrote, but the fact that he wrote it with the intention of putting her mind at ease. He wasn't writing for himself, he was thinking about her thoughts, and how he made her feel better. Now, we will try to type that up so carefully. Merlin's funeral, several important people, according to us, gave comments that I think might be worth sharing. So I've identified a few things in his funeral service that I thought I would like to share with you. In the opening prayer by Milton Earl, who is my mother's brother, he made these comments. We ask thee this day, that the same spirit be here in this service that Brother Merlin carried through life while here in mortality. We ask for that special blessing upon his wife and boys, that his boys will be able to have faith in me, and that they will be able to carry on. We are thankful unto thee, our Father in heaven, that their father was permitted to go on these few years after sickness came upon him, and they are not able to get well because they're a little older, and they can take on a little more responsibility. During these months, they have had the influence of their father. We ask that thy influence be with in them, and that determination to carry forward, that they will always have faith in thee, and they will be on the woman than he was. Then Brother Levitt spoke, Henry Levitt. One comment he made about, my brothers and sisters, we know that Brother Hardy has lived an honorable life, and he has a right to claim the blessings of our eternal Father because of his conduct and because of his service in the kingdom of our Father. I remember when Merlin was called to the World War and he had a party with him in our church house. It was given to my lot to speak at this party before he departed from the training camp. I said and gave him a promise in the name of the Lord that he kept the commandments of God, he would return home in safety. My brothers and sisters, it was not within me to speak those things except to the Spirit of God. I believe it was a help to him in his travels while he was in the army, because he did return pure and clean and he rejoiced in the gospel. There have been many times that he has come over to visit me and I rejoiced in the blessings of God. We had great hope, great courage, manifested. He had great hope, great courage, manifested the Spirit of living for God. And I could say to his mother, his wife, and family, and brothers and sisters, that whenever we can lay one of our friends away, he is there to be more rejoicing to know that he will be able to meet him on the other side and hear him again speak the same to his blessing to our Father in heaven. Later, Brother Harold Brindley's pop. Brother Brindley was the principal of the high school. And he taught in the high school at a small school. Wasn't he the principal? And he lived across the street. I had great respect for Brother Brindley. He was an important man in the church. He was important in the school. I mean, he was higher up and I was impressed. He was giving a talk at our father's funeral because it made me feel my father was more important because this important man was saying these things about. I am very happy that I have the privilege of passing as my friend, Merlin Hardy. I do not need to go too far to find a man who tried to live right. If Merlin Hardy thought a certain action was the right thing to do, that was the way it was done. That was the way he lived. If he had an appointment at 10 minutes to 8, he was there at 10 to 8. If he had an assignment, no matter how much trouble it took to prepare that assignment, you could depend that he would be there. He would perform that task if it were humanly possible, so I don't know where to go to find a man who was more dependable, trustworthy, honorable. They just don't live. Perhaps he had his faults, as all of us do. But I was not privileged to know that. He was a symbol of consciousness, trustworthiness. Always depend upon Merlin party. We have enough in this life of the despicable and ugly. It is refreshing to meet a man like this. I was impressed, I guess, because my father was the custodian of the school district. So the school did gardening and farming. So Merlin was he was even the superintendent of the school, so way up there. Then he made another comment. Last night, a lady said to me in the store, she just happened, she wasn't a member of the church, she said. This is what she said. If all men lived like Merlin Hardy, we would have some. This was somebody that knew Merlin, but really reported that. Then he said, I know the children very well. I had Scott in my class in school, found him to be very conscientious young man, interested in the scientific things of life. You do not need to be afraid that Scott will let his mother down. And I say to you that Scott will never bring dishonor upon his father's name. Martin, by knowing his family, I know he has the same stance of conscience, of honesty, and I know him to be a very conscientious boy, and I know him to be studious, and the type of young man that any father and mother will be glad to call their son. The younger boy I do not know so well. When he reaches maturity, I can't help but believe that he will be the same type, because the training in the family will be the same type. And he will have that same type stamp of dependability that the other boys have had. There's another thing about these boys that they have learned to work. If they didn't do the job that they were supposed to do, their father saw to it that they did the right thing. There was no wishy-washiness in working hard. Brian Bunker was a man that lived next door to us when we were growing up. Brian Bunker he was a very important man in the church. He was in later years, a mission president. He was big in government and circles of power degrees. His brother, Berkeley, was a senator and was instrumental in arranging for Martin to get him into Indianapolis. But Brian Merlin was way up on the totem pole, you might say. But these are some comments he made at Father's funeral. I have never known a family who lived to make of their sons fine and old citizens as this room confided. And I believe I could speak as one having authority, because for a good many years they just lived over that promise. We never made an extra pan of biscuits or had an extra watermelon they didn't share with us. And we never needed a thing done in the house, but what Merlin came over and shared with us, doing something, some fine thing to show how genuine and how lovely and how sweet he was. Merlin was a defender of his church, a defender of his country as flag flies. Merlin was a devoted father, a loving husband, a good neighbor, and a true Christian. And later in the talk he said, on one occasion, Merlin was the state work director. He had the assignment of going once a month to our regional meeting and study the problems of the church culture program, and then come home and adapting it into our lives. And I asked him to go one day with us to a meeting, and he said, I am not prepared. I do not believe I can go. And I said, why? And he said, I do not feel like it. I didn't know what he meant. So the next day he came back happy. And he said, I can go. And I said, what has changed your circumstance? Well, Merlin said, my heart is in the right place. I sent my sister across the front of you. She lost her husband. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Merlin and his family shall be blessed because he blessed. Merlin and his family shall receive love because he loved abundantly. This last comment was from Berkeley, or Brian Bunker also, who was I've been quite perplexed and greatly disturbed, as I know many of you have. I know you have wanted to know why it is that so many trying men have been taken out of this one place. I couldn't come to this funeral had I not received an answer. Because there have been Nettie, Winona, Zella, Ella, Vida, who in one family have given up their husbands, and the Lord doesn't do things promiscuously. These things are not by accidents. They are just as much the plan of life as our birth. And the Lord told me, and I am going to tell you, you know we plan so much, we envelope ourselves so greatly in our life's mission, and we don't take into consideration eternities. We don't take into consideration future existence. Then I remember Uncle Joe, to you Joseph I. Earl. Then I remember the fathers, those I know of the men who have gone. I remember Samuel Wells and Merlin's father. I recall their mission in life. These fathers love you as they've never loved before. They know that you are prepared to meet life's issues, and though you may not feel it now, the Lord is at home. These brothers are needed, and you will be provided for. These men are happy. They are there to fulfill a future assignment that is made of them in eternity. And if you only knew, you wouldn't have them done, because they are building to be better husbands and better fathers and better sons of God. So let your hearts not be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe thou also thou in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told them. I go to prepare a place for you, where I am, and you may be also. Because through our life and our studies and our understanding of the gospel, we take it very much for granted because of our understanding that clearly this life is probationary period. This is wasn't for existence. This is total cancer. This is a temporary place for us to be, for testing, for whatever experiences we're here to get. And we will be together and continue our life in the next turn. And what we gain here, we will take with us. Those who have gone before are there and they do. Mother understood and knew that more than anyone. And she understood the plan under which we work and why we work. And after she died, we went through her things. And we're looking at various papers and understanding and putting them away. We found various notebooks with notes and experience. We set them aside and there were things to read and give to. But one day as I was reading this particular notebook, I realized something. That this notebook was written to dearest Merlin. Now it's in a found notebook with no, hasn't been mailed, but it's a letter. And the date of it is October 13, 1942. My father passed away on October 4, 1942. This is what she wrote. Dearest Merlin, you left me on October 4th, 6:55. You never should have done it. It was my fault more than yours. I should have compelled you to stay at home. Everyone has been so kind. I laid you away the best I knew how. The boys felt terrible, but as boys are, they do not miss you like I do. They are very good to me. May I ever hold your memory in their minds, and may your life be a beacon that guides them. I feel as though you left the house immediately and have never been back. Why? If you can, please come and let me feel that you are here. She goes on many little stories of things happening, things. One comment she made, the boys are against us tonight with the car. Here's another on October 17th. Tomorrow is Scott's birthday. He needs his father so much. You should be here. It isn't right for you to be gone. Why can't you let me know where you are and what you're doing? Barry is leaving tomorrow for another vacation, and Lonnie is sick again, so they're ready to be done with that. The fine thornberries are so red and pretty now. You should see them. The thornberries were plants that he planted over the school district because he took care of the schools, put in trees, and all of those things were, you know, when Mother saw those things, she thought it. On October 19th, she wrote, all day I thought of you and how much you loved your daughter. I wish you were here. You helped keep them in the straight and narrow path. You have left me that responsibility. I remember the long sick days she was talking about Scott here. I remember the long sick days I carried him and how you waited on me night and day for 9 long months, and how proud we were of our son. I hope you're with your family now and are preparing a big place for me. Got it out to show with Nadine, like, we hope he gets the car safely home. A little later, Scott has taken complete possession of the car. Glad to put in gas is ration. I hope you are with Dud. Now, Dud was his brother, and Dud was the one who built the house for this baby. I hope you're with Dudley and your father and my folks, and that you know and realize that we all love and miss you. October 30th, I would gladly spend all we own. You would come and stay with us. The fire thorn brush at the football field is a gorgeous sight. I felt like crying when I saw it. Merlin, you told me so many times that you loved me. I got tired of hearing it, but I would give everything if you would come and say it once again. Today I put your Kansas City money, $1,000 in savings. If there's any possible way for you to guide and influence me in the proper use of it, please do so. You have worked so long and hard for it. I do not want to misuse this incentive. Help me to influence the boys to keep them in the straight and narrow path. Another February 6th, 1942. Another birthday, and no sweetheart to care or bring me any little here. These are treasures that we can share, things that each of you are part of you. Merlin is a part of you. And he is a part of all of us. And it is something that, as we learn and experience and one of them, we strengthen our own heritage, improve our abilities to perform in this life, and strengthen the purposes for which we're here, to prepare ourselves to return to our Father in heaven, and reassociate ourselves with our family, and to, importantly, prepare our little children in such a way that they will also be united. We have a lot of work to do. I'm so grateful for the heritage we have, for our Father, and we are honoring our own hearts, and the great influence He has got on us, and will have on you through the experience we have. This is our program this evening. We appreciate your coming, and we will try to share whatever we can from our community and activity with other people. It is important for us to be in a strong unity, not just over here, but broadly all of us, and we all have to come together.
So go ahead and wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Talk, Richard.
We're glad to be here tonight, and we're looking forward to next year. We want everyone that's looking at this video to plan ahead for next August, the week before August 25, which is our parents' anniversary. So we honor them here